Hey guys, we are at the mysterious Bavka temple. Right outside the main chamber, you can see this weird stone statue. Today, it looks completely unrecognizable, but this is a bull called Nandhi, the mount of Lord Shiva. But there are many strange, unexplained carvings in this temple. You can see this one, it's really bizarre. On the left, you can see an elephant, and on top of the elephant, you can see a man falling down from the elephant. But on the right, can you tell me what this is? It is a dinosaur. It is taller than the elephant. It is standing almost upright. And look at its face. It has a pointed face, clearly looking like a dinosaur. In fact, this looks very similar to a T-Rex or a Tyrannosaurus Rex. Look at its similarity to the T-Rex, how it stands upright and how its head looks. Remarkably similar, right? This could be a young T-Rex because the adult should be taller than this. But see, even the juvenile T-Rex is bigger than the elephant. Some experts think that T-Rex was the apex predator that preyed on other species. But what is it preying on here? A human. Now, why do I say this is a dinosaur, right? Because it is taller than the elephant, and today, the only animal taller than the elephant is a giraffe. This is definitely not a giraffe, and giraffes don't eat humans. And if you look at its pointy head, it's not an oversized lion or a tiger. It looks very much like a reptile. But such a carving should not exist because according to experts, dinosaurs and humans should not be seen together because dinosaurs went extinct 65 million years ago and humans only came on Earth about 300,000 years ago. But very often we see these prehistoric animals carved in ancient Hindu temples. I have shown you at least a dozen different species of extinct animals in various temples, and we don't know how the sculptors could carve such extinct animals. The carvings at Bavka temple show many weird animals. Here, this looks like an elephant, but it does not have a trunk, and it also does not have any tusks. What is this animal? Look at its mouth. It's pointy like a pig or a boar. But look at its legs. Pigs and boars have thinner legs. This animal's legs are quite thick, like those of an elephant. Again, there is no such animal today, but there is an extinct prehistoric species called Barytherium. And if you look at the recreations of this animal, it is a precise match to the carving. It looks very much like an elephant, but it does not have a long trunk and it has thick legs. Again, this species also became extinct millions of years ago. According to mainstream historians, this temple was built about 1,000 years ago. So how could sculptors who lived just 1,000 years ago understand the anatomy of these extinct prehistoric animals and carve them accurately in this temple? However, locals tell a completely different story about the temple. According to the priest of the temple, it was built during the time of Satya Yuga, meaning it was built at a much, much older timeline. The original builder of the temple put many secret codes in these carvings, and these codes can be deciphered only by high-level observers. You can see the letter Om carved in some places, and you can see the letter Sri carved in some other places. If you notice carefully, you can see other letters as well, and these letters differ from place to place. What is the meaning of these codes? Why were they inscribed in these stone blocks? How are these codes related to the carvings next to them? Like this, there are many unsolved puzzles waiting to be decoded in this temple. Experts claim to understand everything, but we have to admit that we don't even know the real name of this temple. I'm calling it the Bavka temple, but Bavka is simply the name of the village, and I'm attaching it to the temple as a reference. Some people call it the Khajuraho of Gujarat because it has many erotic carvings like the famous Khajuraho temple. As we can see, it does have a lot of erotica here, but many of the carvings are also quite misunderstood. For example, here you can see a bunch of men holding things in their hands that can be easily thought of as phallic symbols. These carvings appear again and again in the temple. And even though these things are quite large, many visitors and experts assume that these are stylized male genitalia. But no, these are lotus flowers. If you look at a lotus flower along with the stalk, you realize this. And here you can see that devotees are lining up to offer these flowers to the lingam here. Look at it here. It starts from here, from this side of his body, not from his private area, and this is going all the way up. Now the carving on the right, this is where the stalk of the lotus flower starts. It's definitely not his phallus. And lotus flowers are used quite commonly in Hindu rituals. We still use them all the time. Sometimes you can see smaller deities also holding the lotus flowers. Now, look right next to this. These are erotic carvings. There is no ambiguity about this. It should be pretty clear that this is erotica. Ancient India was a very liberal place where every sculptor had the freedom to carve whatever they wanted. Some locals also call this the Panchayatan temple, meaning the temple of 5 shrines. When we see the aerial view of the temple, we can understand something interesting. There are 4 smaller shrines around the main shrine. Each shrine has the same shape as the main shrine. So there are a total of 5 shrines here. But it's the directions they point to which makes me confused. 2 shrines in the front are facing each other and 2 in the back are facing the entrance. The name Panchayatan simply refers to temples which have 5 shrines, and there are many Panchayatan temples in the area, so this too cannot be the original name of the temple. Therefore, the original name of the temple remains a mystery even today. All the sub-shrines are nearly completely destroyed. We don't know how big they were and how they were utterly demolished like this. You can see demolished stone blocks strewn around all over the temple. As we walk around the exterior, you can see hundreds of stone blocks all around the temple. What we are looking at is a giant jigsaw puzzle with all the pieces strewn around in a random fashion. Look at this stone block. What is this? A perfect circle with spokes coming out in all directions. This block is a very important part of the temple. It's called an 𝑻𝒆𝒎𝒑𝒍𝒆. Where is it placed in a temple? This sits on the very top of the tower. Without this 𝑻𝒆𝒎𝒑𝒍𝒆, the temple tower will not survive. This is the key part of the tower. If you manage to remove the 𝑻𝒆𝒎𝒑𝒍𝒆, or if the 𝑻𝒆𝒎𝒑𝒍𝒆 got destroyed by a lightning strike or something like that, the entire tower will eventually collapse. Because it is the keystone that keeps everything together in the tower. You may be surprised by this because I don't think I have ever shown you an 𝒉𝒒𝒎𝒑 in any other temple. If you study archaeology in India, one of the key differences between South Indian architecture and North Indian architecture is this 𝒉𝒒𝒎𝒑. This structure is almost never found in South Indian temples. You can only find them in North India. This is a rare sight, guys, because normally we don't get a chance to see the 𝒉𝒒𝒎𝒑 from the top view or the bottom view, especially without it being attached to anything. We usually see the side view, and that too from a distance. Here, you can see this slot. This is the place where they lock it with other stone blocks. It looks like a sun with rays going out in all directions, right? It may be a symbol of the sun itself, because if you count the spokes, you will see 24 spokes, indicating 24 hours of the day. The main spoke is broken because without breaking it, you cannot dismantle the 𝒉𝒒𝒎𝒑 from the tower. I'm not going to mention ancient machine technology, but you can see the precision achieved here. The angle between each spoke would be exactly 15 degrees. It seems to resemble some type of a controller for the tower, which is also called the Viamna. Here, you can see a smaller stone block, but it also looks like a miniature tower top. You can see a tiny 𝒉𝒒𝒎𝒑 on top of it, and luckily, it is still attached to the tower. This may be confusing to you. If that big stone block was the real 𝒉𝒒𝒎𝒑 on top of the temple tower, why do you see a smaller tower with a smaller 𝒉𝒒𝒎𝒑 here, right? In this part of India, the temple towers or Viamnas are extremely different. Let's look at this Viamna in the same area, which is still intact. And you can see that it's not just one Viamna with one 𝒉𝒒𝒎𝒑. From the top, this is the giant main Viamna, but as we go down, you will see some smaller Viamnas with their controllers. And if you go down further, you will see more smaller Viamnas with a controller for each one. The entire design looks spectacular, but you have to wonder, why such a complex design for a Viamna? Why put so many smaller Viamnas and controllers attached to the main Viamna, right? Today, we build rockets with multiple boosters. These boosters look similar to the main rocket, but the boosters are smaller. The boosters are initially attached to the main rocket, but they're designed to fall off at a certain altitude. And interestingly, you can see a similar design made 1,000 years ago. Smaller Viamnas or boosters are attached to the main Viamna. And the word Viamna itself means spacecraft in Sanskrit language. And you can see these booster rockets everywhere. It feels like we are exploring an area where they make various rocket models. Experts tell us that this temple was intentionally demolished by invaders, and this is why you see these stone blocks strewn around. But locals tell a fantastic story that the entire temple was built overnight by one woman. The woman was a superhuman who could build everything using magic and levitation. On a particular day, she started the construction after sunset, and she was halfway building the temple. But around midnight, her enemies tricked her into believing that the sun was rising. They made the rooster crow and created artificial light, mimicking sunlight. She was heartbroken that she could not finish the job and left these unfinished stone blocks all around the temple. This is an interesting legend, but archaeologists have found a few inscriptions hinting that it was built by a large organized team about 1,000 years ago. It's more likely that the temple was destroyed by invaders, and what you are seeing are the remnants of demolished parts of the temple. This temple must have once had a giant tower on top with an aerodynamic, pointy shape. It may have even been painted with a variety of colors. Unfortunately, we can only imagine how glorious the original tower would have been. But why wasn't the entire tower dismantled? Why is the bottom half still standing? A good look at the base tells us why it is impossible to remove the bottom part of the temple. The entire temple was created using a complex interlocking system with multiple binding techniques. Even today, it is baffling to see the joining of different shapes of the temple. Look at this area. This is just masterful work. Even today, it's just impossible to remove anything from the bottom. If you want to dismantle the temple, you have to start removing the stone blocks from the top of the tower. That's the only way to do it. And you can see that's exactly what happened here. You can see that the top half of the temple has been removed. But even this would have taken a long time to dismantle them piece by piece. And then the invaders must have given up on this monumental task. This is not an easy job. But just think for a minute. If dismantling the blocks is so difficult, imagine how difficult it must have been for the builders to assemble these stone blocks. Let's see how they joined the stone blocks. Look at the tool marks on this half circle. Here we have 4 different marks. There is a long cut, but at the end it is deep. A stapler pin type of technology was used. If you see a stapler pin, there is a long end, but it bends and goes inside the object to bind it. Same thing here. Some molten metal would have been used here. On the right side, you just see a single rectangular hole. A metal bolt or a rivet type of fastener would have been put here. Here again, you see a stapler pin type of slot. And finally, here's another one. Imagine pinning a bunch of paper with one stapler pin. That would be strong enough, but imagine doing it 4 times. It becomes 4 times harder to separate the papers, right? Ancient builders have used such strong binding techniques, but still, these stone blocks are on the ground today. That is the power of time. Here you can see a rectangular stone block that has 5 slots, a large rectangular groove in the center, and 4 slots around it. And here, look at this one. See how deep the groove is. If it is locked with another stone block on top, or worse, even with multiple stone blocks, it's impossible to separate them. And don't forget those 2 tiny slots for the blocks to be placed on the side. So, if you visit the state of Gujarat, do come to this temple and you can learn a lot by observing the carvings and the ruins. I hope you like this video. I am Praveen Mohan. Thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and I will talk to you soon. Bye.